Hey there, I am back with another deck review, and today we're going to be looking at The Secret from Riffle Shuffle and Canadian magician Tom Hsiung. This deck is part of what's becoming a bit of a staple on Kickstarter with Riffle Shuffle's more luxury decks. Always beautiful decks, but admittedly, they do get some criticism, and I think rightly so, for being a little bit formulaic. There's a lot of similarities as you go from one deck to another, but I will say, looked at individually, every single one of them has beautiful tuck cases, full custom decks, and they work with some really talented artists to produce them. So I like the decks individually, even if certainly you'll see some similarities as you go from one deck to another. Now that said, this deck is inspired by the Illuminati. Now, according to conspiracy theories everywhere, the Illuminati are basically the secret society that has their fingers in every aspect of our lives, from religion to world politics to the entertainment industry. Basically, the Illuminati is running everything. And they're actually based on a real society. All the way back in 1776, there was a secret society formed by members who wanted to educate people in Enlightenment ideals. And they wanted to do this so that they could start to infiltrate leaders everywhere. So they actually had this idea of taking over the world. Now, the original Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati as they were known, really only ran for about a decade or so before they finally disbanded, or at least that's what they want you to believe. Now, there's conspiracy theories to this day that the Illuminati survived on and that you can find their symbols everywhere. And so, of course, with these decks, we're going to see the symbology of the supposed Illuminati all over the place. Now, the deck comes in two different versions. We have the Scarlet version in red here, and then the green is called Virescent, which is just a fancy word for greenish. But two different versions of the deck, and we'll look at both of them in turn. We'll start, though, with the Scarlet version of the deck in red. Now, it's done on a black matte cardstock, and it's covered with two colors of foil, both gold and red, and some really nice deep embossing throughout. Really nice luxury feel to the tuck case overall. Have the name of the deck, The Secret, and then some of that symbology starts to come in right away. You get the owl, which is a symbol of the Illuminati, meant to represent wisdom. And then you have the snakes coiled down on the bottom here. Snakes are often seen as sort of guardians of different secrets around the world. Really beautiful, intricate detail here, kept fully symmetrical in the design. And then you'll see a pattern of roses in red foil in the background. Those roses are actually a symbol of the Freemasons. Now, the Freemasons are not the same as the Illuminati, but a lot of conspiracy theories throughout time have said that the Illuminati, the way that they survived through time, was through the Freemasons. And so the two are kind of seen as linked. And that kind of has a nugget of truth to it as well. The original Illuminati actually used Freemason clubs as kind of a recruitment grounds. They would infiltrate these clubs and then try to recruit members of the Freemasons to become part of the Illuminati. And so that's the significance of the roses that you see here. But really beautiful detailing on this, and I love the way the foil just glows on this one. Turning to the sides, you get Chamber of Wonder. That's Tom Hsiung's company there. And then on the other side, designed by Alba Zapata. Alba Zapata has done a couple of other Riffle Shuffle decks as well. She did Sin City and Gourmet. Bottom here has some more ad copy. Just mentions Chamber of Wonder Playing Card Company. And that these are made in Taiwan. These are made by the Taiwan Playing Card Company. Top here has a couple of daggers in gold and red foil, covered up partly by that tuck seal. And then the back has a beautiful foiled and embossed version of the back design of the cards. Really cool design, and you can see just that deep embossing on here. Finishes out with the red and gold postage stamp style seal. Features the Eye of Providence there, that pyramid with the eye in the center, a classic symbol of the Illuminati. And then Chamber of Wonders, and then the numbering here. This is out of the 2000 deck run. Open up the inner flap. You get a little Latin phrase here, Veritas Omnia Vincit, which is truth conquers all. And then a few more roses. You get the skull and crossbones, very secret society-ish on the inner flaps. And as you go to the inside of the inner flaps, you get another little Eye of Providence in gold. Now, like a lot of the Riffle Shuffle decks, or the luxury Riffle Shuffle decks, it's complete with really intricate interior foiling on the tuck case. And if you unfold this tuck case, you'll see some absolutely stunning designs that continue all the way through, have cryptic symbols all over the place. So really beautiful job with the interior printing on these. So that's the tuck case. Always impressive with the Riffle Shuffle decks, but let's take a look at the cards. And we'll start with the back design. And here it is. So no metallic inks, which is a little bit surprising and disappointing. Instead, they go with this kind of orangish color. So where we saw gold on the tuck case, it's kind of more of an orange here, but still a really beautiful and intricate design. Black background with the orangish yellow and then that red color. The main design is the pair of twisting snakes that coil up the side or right down the center of the design against that bed of roses in the background. And then I love how the bodies in the middle form another view of that all-seeing eye. Really kind of that mysterious look that's really fitting for the secret societies. And then here in the corners, you'll see, let me zoom in, it's a little bit hard to read here, but you'll see a couple of phrases here. So this one says, Timende causa est nascere. And then over here, you get the translation for that, ignorance is the cause of fearing. So you get the Latin and English translations on those banners. A little bit hard to read, but they're there. And then finishes out with that nice white poker border around the edge, nice thin border. So there's the back design of the cards. You get a pair of identical jokers, or nearly identical jokers, I should say. Slight color change, one of them a little bit more orange, the other one a little bit more red. They feature, once again, going back to Freemason symbology. You have the compass and the square here, which is kind of the center of the logo for the Freemasons. Another Eye of Providence with the dagger going through the middle. Again, kind of playing off of those sort of mysterious symbols all the way throughout. Little banners labeled this as Joker. And then in the corners, you just get that little skull and crossbones. Again, very fitting for secret societies. Bottom, another Latin phrase. You get Noli timere sapientia omnia vincit, which means fear not, wisdom conquers all. So there's your two jokers. Really nicely done on those. The power ace of spades follows that same aesthetic, large, bold spade pip, framed up with the owl representing wisdom at the bottom, another Eye of Providence, more roses in there, and then a small text on the banner at the top with the name of the deck, A Secret, and then made by Chamber of Wonder, and gives Alba Zapata's name down there at the bottom again. Pretty small, but nice, easy to read black pip and index there in the corner as well. The other three aces are not as custom, but they do feature slightly larger pips. You can see that little embellishing, the little flares and scroll work that are added in to just add a little bit of flavor to the center of each one of the pips. So you get a little bit of extra design to them, but nothing too over the top. And then the number cards all feature those same custom pips. So obviously a little bit smaller, but still nice and large enough that you can still see the details of those custom pips. A little bit of a custom layout gives them just that sort of interesting look as well. So nicely done on the pips, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Pip and index in the corner, classic black on the black cards, and then kind of more of an orangish red on your diamonds and your hearts. So nothing too special on these, but I think they're still nicely done pips overall. And then there's your hearts. All right, so that finishes out the number cards, and then finally we get to the court cards. And the court cards, there's a story in there somewhere, but I don't know what it is. I think it's really just meant to be sort of hints at Illuminati throughout different parts of our lives. And you'll see all these different characters, and they're all surrounded by kind of cryptic symbols, whether they be, you know, things like the diamond that the Jack here is clutching, or you get another pyramid with the Eye of Providence and the owl on the Queen of Spades. Lots of little touches that just give you all sorts of interesting things to look at as you go through. They don't really follow a particular time period in history. You know, the Jack of Spades here looks a little bit more Old West, whereas the King of Spades looks a little bit more like a druid or a wizard from medieval times. But nice orange and yellow palette here, or red and orange palette here. And you can see sort of Alba Zapata's very distinctive style. If you've seen her other decks before, the court cards with those kind of, I'll call them grotesque, not in a weird way, but just a sort of bizarre, grotesque styled faces with the sort of disproportionate and asymmetrical features, almost those kind of sunken in eyes. but really cool look to them overall. And I love just sort of the mysterious touches. And you'll get little touches on some of them like sapiente, Latin for wisdom there at the base of the pyramid on the Queen of Spades. As you go through the other courts, you'll see them just kind of go through and hint at different areas that, you know, that maybe the Illuminati have infiltrated over time. Like here, the quill and ink maybe suggests that some of the books that we've read over time were influenced by the Illuminati. There's the Queen of Diamonds, clear royalty with the crown there on her head. So obviously a lot of people believe that the Illuminati infiltrated the royalty. Here's another one, a little bit of like a witch doctor on the King of Diamonds. A lot of people say that some of the popes throughout time have been part of the Illuminati, and so there's a pope complete with the flames burning behind him, kind of signaling at his sort of evil intent. There's Lady Justice with the Veritas Omnia Vincit, truth conquers all, on her robes there. This one's another cool one. The Crusades, the Crusades were definitely said to be tied to the Illuminati, and so you can see a warrior from the Crusades there. This is probably my favorite one. I love the helmet, that sort of squared off helmet there. There's your Jack of Hearts, another Latin phrase here, ad moriam de gloriam, which means to the greater glory of God. And there's another really beautiful one. I love the roses that kind of frame her up here on the Queen of Hearts. And finally, the King of Hearts, complete with his top hat and the little staff here, maybe indicating that he's a doctor or something like that. So beautiful look to the cards overall. And then taking a quick look before we talk about handling and the closing thoughts on the deck, we'll look at the Virescent version. Now, a lot of the same design elements, in fact, pretty much the same design elements, but you do get a nice color swap, and one that I think works really, really well in this one. Here, the red roses in the background have been replaced with green. That green, gold, and black, I think, gives a really kind of bright, shiny, and fun look to this overall. Green tuck seal, but otherwise, the same design elements that we saw on the deck before. Has that same beautiful interior foiling as well. And then as you get into the cards themselves, you get some color changes as well, pretty much throughout the deck. The back design, I think, has really great contrast. That green, I think, kind of has a nice mysterious look to it, but still kind of maintains some of that contrast. And for me, I'm usually a big fan of red cards, and I think the red card looks nice, but for me, I like the green card a little bit better than the red. And then as you go to the cards themselves, you'll see some of that green pop in wherever we saw red before. So green roses on the Ace of Spades, green embellishments on these on the pips here. And then as you get into the court cards, you get green accents where we saw red before. So again, I think the green works really nicely with that gold on these. The pips and indices on the red cards have been replaced with green here. So they were kind of that orangish red on the Scarlet deck, but Virescent really plays up the green throughout this. So pretty much a color swap, but one that I think really, you know, is carried throughout the deck. It's not just on a couple of cards, not just on the back designs, but carried throughout the deck, and I think it works pretty well in this one. I think both decks look great. They're fairly equal. I think it's a little bit more personal preference as to whether you prefer the Scarlet or the Virescent deck. Now, as far as handling of the deck, Taiwan Playing Card Company, I'm becoming a huge fan of what they're doing. Their stock is a little bit sturdier feeling, a little bit snappier and, you know, thicker, maybe a little bit more similar to what you'd think of with like an expert stock, but it still has a really soft feel to them. You know, so I kind of think of them as sort of a cross between a Cardamundi deck and an expert deck. Don't know how else to describe it, but I think they handle extremely well, very smooth feeling deck of cards, and yet still feel really nice and sturdy, like these will hold up to typical use. So for uses of the deck, I think, you know, they're an art collector's deck, especially if you are a big fan of just fancy tuck cases. These are gonna stand out. You could use these for gameplay. They handle well enough for cardistry. And they might even be something interesting to use for Magic, although they're probably a little bit too highly custom for that. But the theming on here, maybe you could work that into a Magic routine. So definitely a functional deck, one that I think is absolutely worth opening up and enjoying as opposed to just leaving it on a shelf. But that's it. That is the look at The Secret from Tom Hsiung, Riffle Shuffle, and designer Alba Zapata. I think they did a great job on this one. And like I said, I think, there's a lot of criticism for Riffle Shuffle doing sort of repeated decks. And I think, hey, look, you don't have to pick up every single one of their decks because I think there are a lot of similarities between them. But if you like the theme and you like the artwork, definitely worth checking out some of them. And for me, this is one of my favorite that they've done recently. So really great job on this one. Love the theme and love how it's carried throughout the deck. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this look at the secret. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.